The Federation Council chamber was designed to crush confidence. Its ceiling rose so high it looked like a night sky made from metal. Cold lights were buried deep above, like distant stars that didn't care who lived or died below them. The air itself felt expansive, filtered, perfect, and heavy. Even footsteps sounded small, as if the room swallowed noise before it could become courage. Ambassador Mara Vance walked in with her shoulders straight and her face calm, but inside her chest, her heart beat like a warning drum. She didn't stare at the towering thrones right away. Instead, she watched the floor markings, the seams in the walls, the angles of the exits. When fear tried to steal thinking, humans survived by noticing details. Her security chief, Elias Rook, moved half a step behind her, hands open, empty, polite. People often mistook Elias's calm for softness. They didn't understand. Calm was his weapon. Panic was what got people killed. Around them sat the council, dozens of species shaped by different worlds. Some had feathers, others scales, others eyes like polished glass. Floating translator drones hovered in the air like patient insects. Above the thrones, bright flags hung like a promise or a lie. Mara felt it clearly. This place wasn't built for peace, it was built for control. A tall figure stood, thin, wrapped in ceremonial cloth that shimmered when it moved. The speaker's voice came through the room in smooth human English, warm as oil. "Humanity," it said, "your progress is remarkable. Your engines, your defenses, your manufacturing, you have become essential." Essential. Mara heard the real meaning, useful. She nodded once, respect but not surrender. "We're here to listen." A small clerk drone drifted forward and placed a data slate on a stand between them. It looked harmless, almost friendly. Mara scanned the top seal, the legal marks, the neat paragraphs. She had read enough treaties to know when one was wearing a mask. Real agreements didn't hide their teeth. The speaker spread his hands like it was offering a gift. "The Federation believes in shared advancement," it said. "To protect all member species, we must prevent imbalance. Therefore, the Council requests that human technology be contributed to the common repository." Contributed, repository, prevent imbalance. Each word sounded peaceful, each word carried a chain. Mara scrolled deeper. The demands were worse than she expected. Core drive designs, encryption systems, factory automation, defense logic, even training methods, the way humans thought and adapted, inspection rights, oversight, temporary controls for safety. Temporary, Mara knew, usually meant forever. Elias shifted slightly. Mara didn't. She could feel the room leaning forward, not in curiosity, but in hunger. Then her wrist unit vibrated once, a tight beam message from orbit. 2 words from Captain Dae Kim, cold as empty space. "Fleets moving." Mara kept her face still. Humans in danger didn't advertise what they knew. The speaker's eyes narrowed, pretending patience. "Refusal would be unfortunate," it said softly. "The galaxy is fragile. A single aggressive power can break it. The Council cannot allow that risk." Allow. That single word landed like a quiet threat. Mara lifted her gaze at last. She saw guards along the wall standing too still. She saw drones adjusting their positions like birds preparing to dive. She saw the exits, bright lights, and a feeling that they could turn into sealed doors at any moment. And for the first time, Mara understood the truth with painful clarity. They hadn't invited humans here to negotiate. They had invited them here to take. She placed her hand flat on the stand, not to accept, but to steady herself. "This isn't a request," she said, voice simple and firm. "It's a demand." Federation Council demands human technology. The speaker didn't deny it. Instead, it smiled, slow, confident, while the chamber's exit lights shifted color, and somewhere above them, something in the ceiling clicked open. The click from the ceiling was tiny, but in that silent chamber, it sounded like thunder to Mara. A thin seam opened high above. Something moved behind it, metal sliding over metal. The translator drones kept floating like nothing happened, but Mara noticed the way the guards along the walls tightened their stance. Not loud, not obvious, just ready. The speaker's smile didn't change. That was the worst part. "You understand correctly," the speaker said. "It is a demand. The council has voted. Your compliance will prevent conflict." Mara took a slow breath. She could feel her throat want to tighten, but she refused to let fear drive her voice. She reminded herself of the people watching from home, the engineers who hadn't slept in weeks, the families who still carried scars from old wars. Humans didn't become strong because the galaxy welcomed them. They became strong because no one did. Elias leaned close, barely moving his lips. Sealing ports, could be stun drones, could be a containment field. Mara didn't look up. Noted. She placed the data slate back on the stand, gentle like she was setting down a glass. Then she clasped her hands in front of her, calm and respectful, like a diplomat. But her eyes were hard. "You're asking for our engines, our defenses, our factories," she said. "You're also asking for our encryption and our training methods. That isn't sharing. That's taking away our future." A council member with bright jeweled eyes clicked its mouthparts. "Humans are unstable," it hissed through the translator. "Fast growth is dangerous." Another added, voice smooth as silk. "The Federation protects young species from their own ambition." Mara felt anger rise hot in her chest, and with it, sadness. They spoke like humans were children, like the Federation was a parent, but parents didn't send fleets while smiling. She chose her next words carefully. "Human technology isn't just metal and code. It's built from pain, from mistakes, from funerals we still remember." The chamber stayed still. Mara continued, quieter now, and that made them listen harder. "When we invent something, we also build rules around it, hard rules. We call them locks. Some are legal, some are moral, some are written into the machines themselves." The speaker's smile weakened by a fraction. "Explain." Mara nodded once. "If you seize our systems, they won't serve you the way you think. Many of our core designs require keys that are not stored in any single place. They are split, shared, and tied to identity. That is irrelevant. Keys can be extracted." Elias finally spoke, polite but sharp. "Not from a dead system." That line landed like a dropped knife. Mara didn't smile, but she felt a small, fierce pride. Human tech didn't beg to be owned. It refused. Mara leaned forward slightly. "Here is what we will share," she said. "Medical stabilizers, farm synthesis, clean water systems, disaster relief drones, things that save lives." Several council members shifted, uneasy. "And here is what we will not share. Control over our minds, our defenses, and our independence." The speaker's voice turned colder. "Then you leave us no choice." Mara's wrist unit vibrated again, another tight beam message. "Doors locking. Protocol lantern ready." Mara kept her face calm, even as the exit lights turned fully red. The speaker raised one thin hand, and the ceiling seam widened, releasing a swarm of silent drones, while the council guards stepped forward to escort the humans away.
The drones fell like a quiet storm. They didn't scream or flash alarms. They simply dropped from the ceiling ports in a smooth, practiced flow, small, black, fast. Their bodies were shaped like sharp seeds, and each one carried a blinking light that made Mara's skin crawl. The guards moved at the same time, not rushing, not panicking, like this was always the plan. "Ambassador Mara Vance," the speaker said, voice calm again. "You will be escorted to a secure holding suite while the council completes a safety review. Your security detail will be separated for processing." Separated, processing. Those were not diplomatic words. They were prison words. Elias's right hand twitched toward his belt out of instinct, then stopped. No weapons were allowed in the chamber. That was the point. The Federation didn't fear a human gun. They feared a human choice. Mara lifted her palm slightly, not surrendering, just showing she wasn't trying to fight. Her mind raced fast, but her voice stayed steady. "We came under flag of dialogue," she said. "Detaining us is an act of hostility." The speaker tilted its head. "We prefer the term preventative containment." Mara felt the room close in, not the walls, the attitudes, the belief that humans were something that could be handled, managed, boxed up until they agreed. The first drone drifted close, scanning Mara's face. A thin beam traced her eyes, her cheekbones, her throat. It wasn't looking for weapons. It was looking for weakness. Elias stepped half a pace forward, positioning his body so the drone would have to come through him to touch Mara. His expression remained polite, but his eyes were dangerous. "Personal space," he said simply. The drone paused, like it had been programmed to expect fear, not firmness. Then a low hum filled the chamber. The floor markings around Mara and Elias lit faintly, a containment ring, invisible walls forming. Mara's wrist unit vibrated once more. She didn't look down, but she felt the pattern. 3 short pulses, 1 long. Captain Day Kim's code for now. Mara's fingers tightened together. Her heart thudded. She had one chance to speak before everything became force. She looked directly at the speaker. "I want the council to understand something clearly," she said, voice soft but carrying. "Humans are not refusing because we hate the Federation." Some council members seemed almost pleased, as if they expected her to beg for friendship. Mara continued, and the emotion sharpened like glass. "We are refusing because we learned a lesson the hard way. When someone says, 'for your safety,' it usually means, 'for my control.'" The speaker's eyes narrowed. "You are in no position to lecture the council." Mara's jaw tightened. She imagined Earth, far away, not perfect, not innocent, but alive. People laughing in markets, children playing in dusty streets, old men drinking tea and arguing over nothing. A planet full of loud, stubborn life. She swallowed. "No," she said, "I'm in a position to warn you." The speaker lifted his hand again, an impatient gesture. The drones began to move inward, tightening the circle. That's when the chamber lights flickered. Just once, a small ripple of darkness rolled across the ceiling, like a shadow passing over the sun. The drones hesitated. Their blinking lights stuttered like a heartbeat skipping. The council members looked up. Mara didn't. She felt it, like a door opening in the air. Protocol lantern wasn't a weapon. It was something else. Something humans created after too many betrayals, too many treaties that ended in cages. The containment ring shimmered, and then the shimmer bent, twisted, and snapped like a thread cut by invisible scissors. Elias exhaled, almost a laugh. "Fields down." Mara finally glanced at her wrist unit. A single line appeared. "Lantern active. Remote override in progress." The speaker's calm broke for the first time. "What did you do?" it demanded. Mara lifted her chin. "We refused, and we prepared." Every drone in the chamber suddenly turned in mid-air, no longer pointing at the humans, but aiming at the council seats instead.
For a heartbeat, nobody breathed. The drones hovered between the humans and the thrones, then rotated together with perfect timing, like a school of fish changing direction. Their sensors, their tiny weapon ports, their scanning beams, all redirected toward the council. The speaker's face changed from confidence to something sharper. Fear. The council guards shouted and raised their stun staffs. Several stepped toward the drones, but stopped when the drones emitted a low warning tone, soft yet final. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Mara felt Elias shift beside her, ready to move if anything went wrong. His eyes tracked the exits, the guards, the ceiling ports. He was reading the room like it was a battlefield. Mara kept her hands visible and her voice controlled, but her stomach churned. This was dangerous. One wrong spark, one panicked decision, and the chamber could become a slaughterhouse. She didn't want that. She wanted them to understand. The speaker recovered first. "This is an attack on the Federation Council," it said, voice rising. "You are proving why you must be controlled." Mara shook her head slowly. "No," she said, "this is the result of you trying to control us." A council member with wide, shimmering fins hissed, "Those drones are council property." Elias gave a small, humorless smile. "Not anymore." The speaker slammed its thin hand onto the arm of its throne. "Deactivate them. You will be destroyed for this." Mara glanced up at the ceiling seam where more drones waited. She could almost feel the Federation's system trying to respond, issuing commands, requesting access, pushing authority. But Protocol Lantern had done something clever. It didn't hack with brute force. It asked a question the Federation never expected. Who has the right to give orders? Human code didn't assume authority was permanent. It assumed authority could be abused. Mara spoke like she was teaching, not threatening. "We built our systems with a simple rule. No one gets full control without consent. Not even us, especially not us." The speaker's translator drone buzzed slightly, as if struggling to match the tone. "Consent is not relevant. The council is order." "That," Mara said, "is exactly the problem." The drones pulsed once. A tight beam traced the speaker's chest seal, a symbol of Federation authority. Then another beam traced every council member, mapping identities, biometrics, command pathways. The council realized what was happening. They were being measured. They were being treated the way they treated others, and it made them furious. A guard finally lunged forward. The nearest drone snapped a beam of light across the guard's stun staff. The staff went dead instantly, like a candle pinched out. The guard froze, staring at the useless weapon in shock. Mara's skin prickled. She raised her voice slightly, not to shout, just to reach the corners of the chamber. "Stop moving. Nobody gets hurt." The speaker pointed at Mara with a trembling hand. "You claim to be peaceful, yet you threaten the council in its own chamber." Mara's eyes burned with emotion now, no longer hidden. "You locked the doors. You dropped drones on us. You tried to separate my team and process us." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, not from weakness, but from disgust. "You want to talk about threats? Look in the mirror." Silence. Then one council member, smaller and older, spoke carefully. "If you can take control of council systems, then you have already surpassed Federation security." Mara nodded once. Yes. That simple word carried weight. It wasn't bragging. It was reality. The speaker swallowed. "What do you want, human?" Mara's heart squeezed. For a moment she thought of all the worlds in the Federation that depended on this council. Not all of them were cruel. Some were just afraid. Some had been taught to obey. Mara chose her answer with care. "I want you to end this demand," she said. "Unlock the doors, stand down your fleets, and accept a truth you hate." The speaker's voice came out thin. "What truth?" Mara leaned forward, eyes steady. That humanity is not yours to manage. The speaker hesitated, then the entire chamber shook slightly, and a new alert flashed on Mara's wrist unit. Federation warships, jump signatures detected, inbound.
The vibration on Mara's wrist felt like a pulse from the void itself. Jump signatures detected, inbound. She didn't show panic. Not here, not in front of the council, but inside her chest, something cold spread like winter water. Elias saw her eyes shift and understood. Inbound? He murmured. Mara gave the smallest nod. The speaker noticed the exchange and lifted its chin, trying to regain control through pride. You see, it said, your defiance invites escalation. Stand down. Transfer your technology. The fleets will be recalled. Mara stared at it. You moved fleets before we refused. The speaker didn't answer. It didn't need to. The truth was already hanging in the air like smoke. One of the older council members spoke again, voice tight. If warships are inbound, this chamber is no longer the primary threat. We must communicate with our commanders. Elias's gaze sharpened. You will order them to fire. The council member flinched. To protect the Federation. Mara's hands clenched, then relaxed. The emotion in her face softened, not into weakness, but into something deeper. Protect, she said quietly. That word is doing a lot of damage today. The drones still aimed at the council seats, but Mara didn't want them to fire. She didn't want the Federation to think humans came to execute leaders. That would start a fire no one could put out. She raised her voice, calm but urgent. We're leaving, now. The speaker laughed once, short and cruel. You can't. The doors are locked. The council controls this station. Mara's wrist unit flashed again, another line from Captain Day Kim. Station grid under lantern. Doors available on your mark. Mara inhaled slowly. The galaxy had always assumed humans were loud and emotional, but sometimes the most emotional thing a human could do was stay steady and choose mercy anyway. She looked at the speaker. Unlock the doors, she said, or we unlock them. Either way, we walk out. The speaker's eyes darted toward the drones that now served human commands. Its voice dropped. If you walk out, you admit guilt. Mara's jaw tightened. If we walk out, we prevent blood. For a moment, the chamber felt like it was balancing on a knife edge. Then a new sound arrived, faint, distant, but growing. A deep vibration through the floor, like the station itself was holding its breath. Elias's eyes moved to the ceiling. That's not internal systems, he said. That's space-side vibration. Warships drawing near. The older council member spoke again, slower now. Human ambassador, if you can truly override station control, then what is stopping you from taking everything? Mara swallowed. Pain flickered behind her eyes. She thought of history, empires, people who grabbed power because they could. She thought of how easy it would be to become the monster everyone feared. Then she answered with raw honesty. Nothing, she said, except us. That landed harder than any threat. Mara turned slightly so her voice reached every seat. Listen carefully. We could shut down life support. We could seal you in. We could broadcast your private discussions to your entire Federation. Several members stiffened in alarm. But we won't, she continued, because we refuse to build our future on your fear. The speaker tried to mask its shaking hands by folding them. Then what is your plan, human? Mara lifted her wrist unit so the nearest translator drone could catch every word. Our plan is simple. We leave, we go home, and we change the rules of the galaxy so this never happens again. The speaker's voice goes sharp. You think you can change the Federation?
Mara's eyes hardened. "Not the Federation," she said. "The game." Elias tapped a small signal on his wrist, silent, coded, clean. The chamber doors hissed. The red lights above them flickered, then turned white, unlocked. The council gasped, as if the station itself had betrayed them. Mara stepped backwards toward the open doorway, then froze as a final message appeared on her wrist. Federation Fleet Command has issued a fire authorization. Target, human orbital ships. Mara's breath caught for half a second. Fire authorization. Target, human orbital ships. It wasn't a threat anymore. It was a decision already made. Some officer far away pressing a button while pretending it was policy. Elias read the message over her shoulder. His face didn't change much, but his eyes did. The calm went deeper, colder. "They're going to shoot," he said. Behind them, the council chamber felt suddenly smaller, like the walls were inching closer. The speaker noticed Mara's pause and leaned forward like a predator smelling blood. "You see," the speaker said softly, "your stubborn pride endangers your own people. One surrender, and this ends." Mara turned back, and the emotion finally showed in her voice. "You're calling it surrender. I'm calling it slavery with nice paper." A few council members shifted uncomfortably. Not all of them were evil. Some were simply trained to obey. But their fear had teeth, and now those teeth were aimed at human ships. Mara tapped her wrist unit twice, an open channel to Captain Dae Kim. The response came instantly, tight and clipped. "Dae Kim, we're in defensive posture. We can take the first hit, maybe, but it'll cost lives." Mara swallowed hard. The thought of people dying while she stood here in a room full of comfortable rulers made her stomach twist. She looked at the older council member again, the one who had spoken with caution earlier. "Do you know what you're doing?" Mara asked, voice shaking just slightly. "Do you know what war does to a species?" The older member hesitated. "War is sometimes necessary." Mara's eyes burned. "No," she said. "War is sometimes chosen by people who won't bleed." The speaker snapped. "Enough! Human ships will be neutralized. Human technology will be secured. Peace will be restored." Elias took a small step closer to Mara. "Say the word," he murmured. "We can lock this whole station down. We can hold them here." Mara knew he meant it. Protocol Lantern gave them power, real power, the kind that could turn fear into a cage. For a moment, the temptation was sharp. Make them feel what you felt. Make them helpless. Make them pay. But then she remembered Earth again, the crowded streets, the laughter, the ordinary people who would be the first to die if this became a full war. She shook her head. "No cages," she whispered back, "not even for them." She turned and spoke clearly to Captain Dae Kim. "Mara, today, initiate Lantern Step 2. There was a pause on the channel. Then Dae's voice came back, low and careful. "Step 2 is public." Mara's throat tightened. Step 2 was risky. It meant exposing what humans had built in secret, not the weapons, but the truth behind them. Once revealed, it couldn't be hidden again. Mara looked at the speaker, then at the council seats, then at the drones floating like silent witnesses. "Do it, now." A soft tone chimed from every translator drone in the room at once. Not just the drones, every device on the station, every comm panel, every display screen. The Federation's own network suddenly carried a new broadcast signal. The speaker's head jerked up. "What is this?" Mara answered, voice raw with feeling. "This is what you taught us to do. When powerful people don't listen, you speak to everyone else." The chamber screens flickered to life. A simple human symbol appeared, a small lantern icon, glowing white against black. Then words in hundreds of Federation languages rolled across the displays. To all member worlds, the Council has ordered the seizure of human technology. Fleets have been deployed. Fire authorization has been issued. This is not defense. This is control. The Council erupted into noise, shouts, protests, panic. The speaker rose, trembling with rage. "Turn it off!" Mara's voice broke, but she didn't stop. "No," she said, "not anymore." As the broadcast spread across the Federation, Captain Dae Kim's next message arrived, short and terrifying. "They're firing anyway, and our ships are not returning fire."
Mara felt like someone had punched her through the ribs. They're firing anyway, and our ships are not returning fire. Elias read it and whispered, "Dae's choosing restraint." Mara closed her eyes for a brief moment. Restraint sounded noble in speeches. In real life, restraint meant broken hulls and dead friends. The council chamber had turned into chaos. Some members were shouting at the speaker, others shouting at each other, and a few looked like they wanted to run. But there was nowhere to run, not from the truth now streaming to every Federation world. The speaker bellowed, "Cut that broadcast! Arrest them! Destroy their network access!" The guards moved again, braver now because fear was pushing them. But the drone still hovered between. One guard raised a weapon, then froze as a drone's beam traced a line across the weapon's power pack. Dead. Useless. Mara stepped forward, voice loud enough to cut through the noise. "Stop!" she shouted. The chamber went quiet in pieces, like a storm that didn't want to end but had to listen. Mara's eyes were wet, but her posture was iron. "You want to call us dangerous," she said. "Fine, look at what we're doing right now." She held up her wrist unit so the nearest camera drone could capture it. "Our ships are being fired on," she said, voice shaking with anger, "and they are not firing back." A ripple went through the chamber. Confusion, disbelief. One council member hissed, "That is impossible. No species allows itself to be attacked without response." Mara's voice softened, and that softness carried pain. "Humans do," she said, "when we believe the other side is trying to force us into becoming monsters." Elias glanced at her, respect and worry mixed together. He knew what she was doing. She was making the Federation watch human restraint in real time. She was turning their narrative against them. But it came with a cost. Mara opened the channel again. "Dae, status." Dae's voice came back strained, with alarms faint in the background. Dae Kim, "Impact in 30 seconds. Shields will hold first salvo, but barely. We're moving civilians to protected modules." Civilians. That word hit Mara the hardest. Not soldiers, not people who signed up for it. Just ordinary lives caught in political greed. Mara swallowed and forced her voice steady. "Do not return fire," she repeated, even though it hurt. "Hold. Lantern Step 3 is coming." The speaker heard her say Step 3 and stiffened. "More sabotage?" Mara turned toward it. Her eyes were sharp now, not watery. "Not sabotage," she said. "Proof." The older council member leaned forward, voice strained. "Proof of what?" Mara pointed upward, toward the ceiling ports where the drones had emerged. "Your whole system assumes something," she said, "that power flows in one direction, from councils to citizens, from fleets to targets, from strong to weak." She tapped her wrist unit once. "And you assume that if someone refuses to be controlled, they must be planning to control you instead." The speaker sneered, though his fear was obvious. "That is how the galaxy works." Mara nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "That's why the galaxy keeps bleeding." The screens changed again. The lantern icon stayed, but now a live feed appeared. Space outside the station. Human ships, clearly outnumbered. Federation warships firing bright lines of energy. Human shields flaring like wounded skin. Gasps filled the chamber. One council member stood abruptly. "They are not firing back!" Mara's voice broke, but she kept speaking.
Because we don't want your children to watch your fleets burn on their screens. We don't want 1,000 worlds to hate us forever." The speaker shouted, "This is manipulation!" Mara snapped back, emotion spilling out. "No, this is restraint. This is us choosing not to become what you already are." The live feed showed the first impacts, human shields shuddering, hull plating glowing from heat. The chamber's silence returned, heavy and sick. Then Day's voice came again, urgent. "Day, we can't take a second salvo." Mara's hands trembled. She whispered, almost to herself, "Then we stop it before the second." The lantern icon pulsed brighter. Then the screens displayed a new line, and the council went pale as they read it. Step 3. Federation Command Authority. Suspended.
The words on the screen didn't look dramatic. They weren't wrapped in flame or threats. They were simple. Federation Command Authority suspended. For a second, the council chamber froze as if the air itself had turned to ice. The speaker's mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. It tried again, voice cracking. "That is not possible." Mara felt her pulse hammering. Step 3 was the line humans never wanted to cross, because once you proved you could do it, the galaxy would never forget. But the Federation had forced their hand. "It is possible," Mara said, voice low and heavy, "because you built a galaxy that runs on centralized control." She looked at the council seats, eyes shining with fierce emotion. "And we built a lantern to shine on it." On the live feed, the Federation warships prepared for another volley. Their weapon ports glowed, their targeting arrays locked. Then, nothing. No blast, no beams, just silence. A confused voice came through the station comms, one of the Federation officers, unaware he was being broadcast to thousands of worlds. "Command, we have firing authorization. Why are weapons not responding?" Another voice, tense and angry. "Override is rejected. Systems say authority token invalid." The council chamber exploded with panic. "What have you done?" a council member shouted. "You've crippled us," screamed another. The speaker slammed his hands down. "This is an act of war." Mara flinched at the shouting, not from fear, but from how familiar it sounded, like bullies screaming when their fists are stopped. She lifted her hands, firm and open. "No," she said, "this is an act of prevention." Elias stepped closer to her side, quiet but ready. Lantern didn't destroy their weapons, it just refused their command chain. Mara nodded. That was the twist. Human restraint turned into human control of rules, not people. They didn't seize fleets to use them. They removed the Federation's ability to use fleets as a club. The older council member stared at the screen, horrified. You can deny our command across the network?" Mara's eyes softened slightly. "Only for a limited window," she said. "Only while active violations are happening. Only while we can prove the council is abusing emergency authority." The speaker barked a laugh that sounded like breaking glass. "You built a system that judges the council?" Mara's voice grew sharper. "We built a system that judges actions." She pointed to the live feed again. The Federation warships drifted, confused. Their crews were still alive, their ships still worked, but their ability to attack had been shut down like a hand removed from a knife. "And we didn't do this for revenge," Mara continued. "We did it because your fleets were about to kill human civilians." The speaker's eyes flicked toward the cameras in the chamber. It finally understood the worst part. Everyone was watching. The Federation's citizens, the member world's media, the independent colonies, even species outside of the Federation. This wasn't a private discipline anymore. This was exposure. A younger council member, voice trembling, asked, "If you can suspend our authority, why not take the Federation's entire network forever?" Mara breathed in, and the emotion in her answer felt like a bruise. "Because we remember what it feels like to be powerless," she said, "and we refuse to build a new empire out of your ruins." The speaker leaned forward, desperate now.
Then release control. Stop this broadcast. We will negotiate. Mara looked at the speaker for a long moment. She wanted to believe it. She wanted peace so badly her chest hurt. But she also knew the Federation's habit. They promised when cornered, then returned to control when safe. So she shook her hand. No, she said. Negotiation doesn't start with a gun. You already pulled the trigger. The speaker's voice dropped into something poisonous. If you leave here alive, the Federation will hunt you. Mara's eyes went cold. If you try, the entire galaxy will see it, and next time, we won't be standing alone. Elias tilted his head slightly, listening to a new incoming transmission. He spoke quietly. Multiple member worlds are ordering their fleets to stand down. They're refusing council orders. Mara felt tears sting her eyes, not from fear this time, but from something like hope. The Federation's control was cracking, not because humans broke it with violence, because humans showed everyone the truth. A final alert popped on Mara's wrist unit, one that made her blood run cold. Council Emergency Measure, Planetary Sanction Authorization, Earth.
Mara's fingers went numb as she read the alert. Planetary Sanction Authorization, Earth. For a split second, she couldn't breathe. Sanctions weren't just paperwork in the Federation. Sanctions meant blockades, trade denial, medical embargoes, starvation hidden behind legal language. It meant pressing a knee on a planet's throat and calling it order. Elias saw her face change. "They're going after home," he said, voice tight. The speaker noticed their reaction and straightened like it had found a new weapon. Its voice became smooth again, satisfied. "You see now," it said, "the Federation is larger than your ships, larger than your tricks. If you will not surrender technology, your world will pay the price." Mara's chest burned. Rage rose so fast it almost made her dizzy. Not because they threatened her, because they threatened children, hospitals, food systems, people who had never seen this chamber, never spoken a word here, yet would suffer first. The older council member looked disturbed. "Speaker, sanctions at this level. Necessary," the speaker cut in. "Earth must learn the cost of rebellion." Mara stepped forward one pace. Her voice came out low, shaking with emotion. "Earth isn't a lesson," she said. "It's a home." The speaker's eyes glinted. "Then behave like a responsible species. Share your technology and submit to oversight." Submit. Mara tasted the word like poison. She opened her channel to Captain Day Kim. "Day, the Council is authorizing planetary sanctions on Earth." Day's response came instantly, anger barely controlled. "Copy. That's an economic kill switch. We can intercept blockade formation, but if they go legal and spread it across member worlds, it becomes slow murder." Slow murder. Mara looked around the chamber. Some council members wouldn't meet her eyes. Others looked angry at the speaker, not because it was cruel, but because it was reckless. The live feed had changed the room. Now every action had witnesses. Mara lifted her wrist unit, letting the chamber cameras see the sanction alert. "You want to talk about fragile galaxy?" she said, voice rising. "This is fragility. Your council is so afraid of losing control that it will starve a planet to make a point." The speaker snapped. "Control is stability." Mara's voice cracked. "No," she said. "Control is fear wearing a uniform." She turned slightly, addressing not only the council but the unseen billions watching the broadcast. "We offered to share life-saving tools, medicine, clean water, food synthesis, disaster relief. You rejected that because saving lives wasn't your goal." Her eyes hardened. "Your goal was ownership." The speaker lifted his hand and spoke a command into its translator drone, almost like a prayer. "Proceed with sanctions." Nothing happened. The speaker blinked, tried again. "Proceed with sanctions." Still nothing. Mara felt a chill.
She hadn't expected that. Elias murmured, surprised. Lanterns blocking it too. Mara's brain clicked into place. Step 3 didn't only suspend weapon authorization, it had expanded, watching for abuse patterns, especially emergency powers used as punishment. The speaker's face twisted in disbelief. You can block sanctions? Mara swallowed, voice quieter now, heavy with responsibility. We can block this sanction because it is not defense, it is collective punishment. The older council member stared at Mara. That means your system is deciding what is moral. Mara answered honestly. No, she said, it's deciding what is consistent. She pointed to the broadcast record displayed on the screen. The Federation Charter says member worlds must not be harmed for political coercion. Your own rules, your own words. The speaker snarled. Rules are interpreted by the council. Mara's eyes flashed, and that is why your rules became weapons. Silence hung again. The live feed showed Federation ships drifting, unable to fire, unable to enforce sanctions, their crews arguing with their own consoles. For the first time, Mara saw it clearly. The Federation had built a throne so high, it forgot it was standing on people. And now, the people were watching the throne wobble. Elias's wrist unit chimed. Mara, he said quietly, we're getting direct messages. Member worlds, governors, trade unions, even fleet captains. About what? Mara asked, dread and hope mixing. Elias looked up, eyes wide. They're asking for the lantern. Not the weapon, the rule, the thing that stopped power from becoming abuse. Mara's stomach tightened. This could save lives or start a new kind of war. A private message slipped through to Mara, encrypted, urgent, and terrifying. If you share Lantern, the Federation collapses. If you don't, Earth becomes their next target in another way.
Mara stared at the private message until the words blurred. If you share Lantern, the Federation collapses. If you don't, Earth becomes their next target in another way. It felt like a knife held to two different throats at once. Elias leaned in, reading it. That's someone inside, he whispered. A warning, not a threat. Mara nodded slowly. The Federation couldn't fire. It couldn't sanction, but it could still harm. Covert strikes, assassinations, propaganda, black operations that didn't need official authority tokens. The speaker paced at the front of its throne now, voice sharp with panic. You are destabilizing the galaxy. You are turning citizens against lawful order. Mara's eyes flicked toward the chamber cameras. She felt the weight of billions of watchers, not just their attention, but their fear, their hope, their anger. One wrong step, and humans would become the villain in every story told for generations. The older council member spoke, voice shaking. Human ambassador, what is Lantern truly? Mara exhaled. The truth was simple and dangerous. It's a failsafe, a system that recognizes patterns of abuse and refuses to obey them. The speaker hissed. So you built a machine that can disobey governments. Mara's answer came out bitter. We built a machine that can disobey tyranny. Elias quietly added, because we've met tyranny in many shapes. Mara looked at the council seats. The Federation's greatest weapon isn't fleets, she said. It's paperwork, legal language used like chains. You call it stability, while whole species live afraid to breathe wrong. A council member snapped, defensive. Without central control, you get chaos. Mara nodded. Yes, she said softly. Chaos is scary. Her voice rose, emotion filling it. But do you know what's worse than chaos? A calm universe built on silent suffering. The speaker stabbed a finger toward Mara. If you truly care about suffering, then share Lantern and end this standoff. Let the Federation rebuild around it. Elias stiffened. That's a trap. Mara understood instantly. If she handed Lantern to the council, they would reshape it, turn it into a loyalty tool, a surveillance net, a new kind of chain. They'd call it safety compliance. They'd sell it as peace. And if she didn't share it at all, the Federation would fear it, and fear becomes violence in the dark. Mara's wrist unit chimed again. Captain Dae Kim sent a short update. Dae Kim. Enemy captains confused. Several are refusing further action, but we detected stealth craft leaving Federation carrier group. Unknown vector. Mara's blood went cold. They're going covert, she murmured. Elias's jaw tightened. Earth or us? Mara felt tired suddenly, tired in her bones. She thought of human history. Every time people gained power, someone tried to steal it. Every time someone built a safeguard, another person tried to corrupt it. Mara looked at the cameras again and made a decision that hurt. Lantern will not be given to the Council, Mara said clearly. The speaker's eyes widened, then narrowed with satisfaction, like it expected this, like it could use it. Mara continued, voice firm. But it will not remain only human either. The chamber went still. The older council member whispered, "What do you mean?" Mara lifted her wrist unit and tapped a command. The lantern icon on the screens shifted, splitting into many smaller lanterns like sparks moving outward. We built Lantern with a core principle. No single species should control it. Not the Federation, not humans, no one. The speaker's voice rose in alarm. "You cannot distribute it. That would change everything," Mara finished. "Yes." Elias looked at her, surprised. "Mara." She kept her eyes on the council. "We are creating a public standard. Open verification, independent audits, shared governance. Lantern's logic will be transparent. Its triggers will be published. Its limits will be written into a new compact, signed by worlds that choose it." The speaker shouted, "That will collapse Federation command!" Mara's eyes burned. "Then maybe the Federation deserves to collapse," she said, then softened her tone, because the emotion wasn't hate, it was grief. "Or maybe it deserves to be reborn." She tapped again. A data packet began broadcasting, massive, encrypted but publicly documented. Not the full Lantern code, too dangerous, but the framework. How to build a decentralized authority check that no single ruler could secretly own. Elias whispered, "That's the twist. You're not giving them a weapon, you're giving everyone a lock." Mara nodded, voice low. "A lock that only closes on abuse." An alarm suddenly blared through the station, new, harsh, urgent, while Dae Kim's voice snapped into Mara's ear. "Mara, Stealthcraft just entered the station's dock grid, and they're heading straight for you." The station alarm wasn't the normal soft warning tone. This one was raw, like the station itself was screaming. Mara's wrist unit flashed with Dae Kim's message again. "Stealth craft in dock grid, heading for you." Elias's posture changed instantly. Calm stayed on his face, but his body became something else. Tighter, faster, ready. "Kill team," he said, "not negotiators." The council chamber erupted into confusion again. Some members stood, others shouted orders, but their commands meant less now. Lantern had cut the council's strongest levers. That meant the Federation would use its oldest method. Silence, knives, shadow. The speaker's eyes widened for a moment. Then it tried to hide its reaction, but Mara saw it. The speaker knew. Maybe it didn't order the kill team, but it wasn't surprised to see it. Mara's stomach twisted with disgust. "You're going to murder diplomats," she said, voice trembling with rage. The speaker raised its hands, pretending innocence. "The council has ordered no such thing." Elias's eyes narrowed. "You don't have to order it," he said. "Your system rewards it." Mara turned her wrist unit outward, letting the broadcast cameras capture everything. "Dae, seal the corridors." Dae's voice came back fast. "Trying. Station security is split. Some are cooperating, some are not. You have about 2 minutes." 2 minutes. Mara looked at the open chamber doors. White lights still glowed above them, but now the hallway beyond felt like a throat leading to teeth.
Elias leaned in. We can move, fast, but they'll expect it. Mara's mind raced. The council wanted her alive as a bargaining chip, but the shadow team wanted her dead to erase Lantern's symbol. Both outcomes served control. She forced herself to breathe. We don't run blindly, she said. We move with purpose. She tapped a sequence on her wrist unit. Lantern, local mode, access, chamber node, control, doorway camera feeds. The main screen shifted. A live map of nearby corridors appeared. Little icons moved, security units, staff, and 3 cold dots that didn't broadcast standard IDs. Elias pointed. There, 3 unknowns, no transponder. That's them. The speaker's voice rose, angry and afraid. You are violating station privacy. Mara snapped back, emotion sharp. You tried to imprison us. Privacy is already dead in this room. The older council member looked horrified. Speaker, this is beyond governance. The speaker ignored it. Human, end this. Shut down Lantern. Stop this broadcast. Give us your technology, and we will protect you from whatever criminal element is approaching. Mara laughed once, bitter. Protect us from the criminals you trained, she said. Elias moved close to her ear. We can use the chamber drones as escort. Mara nodded. Non-lethal only. She raised her voice again. All chamber drones, form corridor shield, passive mode, do not engage unless fired upon. The drones responded instantly, drifting toward the chamber doors in a tight formation. Their sensors widened like eyes opening, a moving wall. Mara turned to the cameras again, because this wasn't only about surviving. It was about what kind of species humans would be seen as. We are leaving, she said. We are not harming the Council. If the Federation attacks diplomats in public view, history will remember who broke the last rule. Elias glanced at the map. They're almost at the intersection. Mara's heart pounded. She stepped toward the doorway. Then the corridor lights outside flickered, once, twice, like someone blinking in the dark. A figure appeared at the far end, tall, wrapped in matte armor that swallowed light. No badge, no face, only a smooth mask. The figure raised a weapon, not a stun staff, something silent. The first shot came like a whisper. A drone intercepted it, flashing bright as the impact dispersed. The second shot followed, and the third. Mara felt fear like fire in her veins, but she stayed standing. She had to, because billions were watching, and the galaxy was learning what humans did under pressure. Elias shouted, "Move!" As Mara stepped into the corridor, the masked figure spoke through a distorted calm, one sentence that chilled her completely. We're not here to kill you, Ambassador. We're here to take Lantern out of your mind. Mara's blood turned to ice at the words. We're here to take Lantern out of your mind. For a second, everything slowed. She heard her own breathing. She heard the drones buzzing as they shifted to block the corridor. She heard distant shouts from the council chamber behind her. Elias's head snapped toward Mara. Neural extraction, he said, voice tight. They want your access patterns, your authorization habits, the human part. Mara's stomach rolled. She had expected bullets. She had expected prison. But this was worse, because it wasn't just about stealing technology. It was about stealing choice. The masked figure in the corridor raised its weapon again. Not a gun, not a stun staff. Something shaped like a slim injector rifle, with a faint blue glow at the tip. Mara took one step back. Fear surged in her throat, but she forced her voice to stay steady. You're proving my point, she called out. When control fails, you go straight to violation. The figure didn't respond with anger. It responded with calm professionalism. Ambassador Mara Vance, your species created Lantern. Your species must surrender it. You will cooperate. You will survive. Elias leaned close to Mara, quick and urgent. "We can't let them tag you. One injector and they can map your bio keys." Mara's whist unit buzzed. Captain Day Kim again. Dock grid locked, but they brought manual cutters. "I have Marines moving, 2 minutes out." 2 minutes. Mara felt the old human problem in her bones. Time never waited for the innocent. The masked figure fired. A drone intercepted, but the injector didn't explode. It stuck to the drone's casing, blinking. The drone jerked mid-air as if something tried to talk to it. Elias swore under his breath. "Smart payload. It's trying to hijack the drone to reach you." Mara's mind snapped into clarity. Lantern wasn't only a system, it was also trust. The Federation couldn't break the code easily, so it tried to break the human. Mara raised her wrist and spoke clearly. "Lantern, Emergency Mercy Protocol." Elias blinked. "Mara." "I know," she said, voice shaking, "but it's the only way." Emergency Mercy Protocol was a human rule written for the worst day. If someone attempted to steal Lantern through coercion, the system would do something that felt cruel but saved lives later. Mara's wrist unit displayed a warning. "Mercy Protocol will sever personal access keys. You will lose direct control." Mara swallowed. Losing control meant she would no longer be able to command Lantern herself. She would become just another citizen under its rules. It meant giving up the one leverage she had. But it also meant the kill team could no longer steal Lantern from her mind, because there would be nothing personal left to steal. Elias stared at her. "You'd cut yourself out?" Mara's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't want this power," she whispered. "That's the whole point." The masked figure stepped forward, impatient now, firing again. Drones flashed as they intercepted. The corridor filled with the smell of hot metal and ionized air. Mara pressed her thumb to confirm. The lantern icon on every screen, everywhere, pulsed once, bright as a heartbeat. Then it changed. A new symbol appeared beside it, an open hand. Across the broadcast, new words rolled out in countless languages. Lantern governance shift. No single operator. No single species. Authority distributed to verified civil panels. In the council chamber behind, someone screamed. The speaker shouted in pure panic. This was the nightmare they feared most, a galaxy where the council couldn't quietly pull strings. The masked figure froze. For the first time, it sounded uncertain. "What did you do?" Mara's voice trembled, but it was strong. "I let go," she said, "so you can't take it." Elias exhaled, almost in awe. "They can't extract what isn't there." Outside, in the live space feed, Federation warships remained unable to fire. On open channels, captains argued, governors demanded answers, citizens asked why their leaders tried to starve a planet. And across dozens, then hundreds of member worlds, emergency assemblies formed, not under council command, under public demand. Day Kim's voice returned, relieved and fierce. "Mara, stealth team is retreating. They lost the objective." Mara's legs almost gave out. Elias grabbed her elbow to steady her. She turned her head slightly toward the cameras one last time. "Humanity refuses to be owned," she said softly, "and today we refuse to become owners." She looked straight ahead, into the corridor, into the future. "We came here as a small species," she whispered. "You tried to cage us." Her eyes hardened with a final, quiet promise. "So we built a lantern, and we lit it for everyone." Mara and Elias walked alive, not because they defeated the Federation with violence, but because they defeated its method. The Council lost its secret power, the fleets lost their illegal authority,
and the galaxy gained something it had never truly had before, a shared way to say no to abuse. But as the broadcast ended, a new message appeared from an unknown deep space relay, only 4 words long. The dark also learns.